This county was very red, and everybody said, you're not gonna make it, you're not gonna make it. And I kept saying, I'm gonna make it, because I knew that for me, it was God-given destiny or God-given insight or motivation to run. Otherwise, I wouldn't have. And for me to be able to finally say, wow, you know, like a girl who's born in a little village in Kerala is now sitting on one of the benches in the county. And it's a very powerful position. You get to say what happens in people's lives. It's my great pride to be an Indian American woman to sit on that bench. And I am the first Indian American woman elected in the country. I was born in my mom's birthplace, Perumpatti, which is very close to my dad's house in Vernikulam. It's Pathanamthitta district, close to Tiruvalla. So mommy was a nurse, and she had a chance to come to the US in the 70s, but her sister had at the same time moved from New York to Chicago, and she lost contact with her. So in the 80s, she reapplied for that same visa and was able to come here as a nurse. My dad was a firm pharmacist in the government services, and moved here and worked at a basic level factory because, you know, he couldn't complete his schooling here. They ended up buying a business and just had a lot of setbacks in that, and kind of prompted me to go to law school. I mean, it was a great childhood. I had just running around with my cousins and enjoying nature and being a part of it. My grandmother was an amazing influence upon me. I think her personality of just, there's not a stranger that she met. She always knew who their names, how they were connected to us, who they were, all those type of things. So I think I have that innate nature to kind of find out more about people, connect with people. And so I think it helped me, in later in life in running for a judge. In Northeast Philadelphia, I went to a high school called Abraham Lincoln High School. And it was a specialized program I was in. It was called Environmental Technology. And in my 10th year, I actually got to go to Russia on a research project. And it was one of the best things that I've ever done in life. The Environmental Protection Agency at the time gave us environmental equipment, about $10,000, probably much, much more now. This was '92. And we took that equipment to Russia and taught kids in a high school how to use that equipment and set up a lab for them to use. So it's just at that time very cutting edge to be able to do something like that. And while I was there, I did a specialized project for a science fair. It was the qualitative and quantitative analysis of the air, water, and soil of the city of Novgorod. And so I did that and brought the research back to the US, and I won first prize in a national science fair contest. And so in Earth and Space Sciences, I was able to get first prize on it. It was in State College. The first 2 years I did there, and then 2 years in my junior and senior year, I moved closer to home and I went to a campus in close to Philadelphia. So initially I started out going into a science, or I was undeclared for a while. Then in my second year, I kind of decided I wanted to go to political science to go into law, but then I decided that it was probably criminal justice to be major in administration of justice, criminal justice, just in case I don't make it to law school. I still wanted to be able to have a job. So I did administration of justice, which was basically criminal justice, and then sociology. So last year of my college, I was the president of the student government, and I was very active in it. So it's kind of bad at applying for law schools. For some reason, my law school just came into my head, and I decided that's where I'm gonna go, and I applied and I got it and I went. It wasn't really a very thought out process. My college counselor probably had a big part in helping me write my speech and my essay and those type of things to get in. But I was so busy in the student government, I know I almost missed my mark in my senior year to even apply for law school. So it was kind of one of those things that just happened. After law school, I moved to Texas. I got licensed in Pennsylvania first. I took the bar exam in Pennsylvania, and I practiced for a firm here that needed an attorney in Pennsylvania. So it just worked out perfectly that I was able to find a fit here. And then I didn't get licensed in Texas till 2006, but I was licensed in Pennsylvania first. There were cases that were filed in Pennsylvania in the federal court, so I got licensed federally and in Pennsylvania itself. And then I practiced here for about a total of 15 years. As an attorney, there's nothing extraordinary that I can talk about. I like the practice of law overall. I was a great negotiator. I worked for financial companies. My last employer, we did contracts for American Express, so I was very good about negotiating and, recovering funds that my client had lost. There were times that, we go after big accounts, both commercial accounts and private accounts, people who defaulted on loans and payments. And so I was able to recover a lot of the funds, and I was always able to help people at the same time. So I really enjoyed that part about it. I've always worked as a plaintiff's attorney, so always the one that filed the lawsuit. And people usually who come across me said, you're the nicest attorney that I've ever come across. So I think I was pretty pleasant to deal with overall, although that I was always the one, on the forefront of probably some people seen as the bad guy. For example, people who are naturalized citizens, who weren't born in this country, who became naturalized citizen. At that time, there was talk about taking away citizenships if there is a mistake in the form that they submitted to the court or submitted to the whole process of becoming a citizen. So as an attorney, I felt that was wrong. That's taking away, your citizenship because of some form that you filled out as a child may have been wrong in some way or another. And anytime the executive or the legislative branch messes up, the judiciary is the last step, to stop that. And you have to start somewhere. So I felt that county court fits my experience level and my skill set. And I really wanted to have a say in what happens in the future. A lot of people with our skin color who are brown are seen as perpetual immigrants. And I felt it was important. We set our roots deep in this country. Our kids are growing up here. I'm gonna, although India is the country of my birth, my country of my death is possibly the United States. So I wanted to make sure that my roots are set deep, not just for myself, but for future of the kids that look like me. And so I thought this was the great pathway to have a say and to put my roots down. Not only whites discriminating against you, but African Americans and Spanish also discriminating against you because they don't know who you are or what you are. So obviously anytime you don't know something or someone or what they're about, then you're gonna, those things are gonna come out. And it was never pleasant to be the least of something, because everybody wants to be better. Even if you look back in the population, when the Irish came, they were looked bad upon. When the Italian came, they were looked bad upon. So it's like, everyone at the top wants to look down upon somebody and be able to pick on somebody. At some point, I believe I even stopped speaking Malayalam, kind of wanted to be that American person or, be Americanized as much as you possibly can be. But I think later on in life, I really embraced my culture. I was always proud to be an Indian, proud to be a Malayali because certain things that come with it. Our country India has given a lot of contributions to this world. Whether it be mathematics or just our culture is so rich in heritage and history that I always was proud of it. But at the same time, when you go into another country and people don't know and what they see on TV is all negative. I grew up in a time where Simpsons was on air, and anyone who know of that cartoon, it was a nightmare at my time to have to deal with people making fun of you in Apu voice and calling you a sand so-and-so and all sorts of things that were just very derogatory. So you definitely wanted to be non-Indian in some sense. There were some really great and positive things. I met so many people. I met different people. I met different religions. I met people, that I normally would have never come across. And I got to experience cultures and religions and festivals and things that I've never opened my eyes to. I was always very strong Christian conservative, but to step outside my comfort zone and learn something else about somebody else, it was very important. And I enjoyed it. I enjoy meeting people, learning more about them, learning their culture, and it makes me a better person. And I think I was able to connect to people that also helped me when I was running. Well, one of the main reasons is no person of color has ever made it past the primary in the Republican Party in Fort Bend County. So I knew that if I had to have a chance, that I had to run as a Democrat. And plus, I truly believe, the racial injustices that exist currently in our system, in our nation, I think this was the best platform for me to run. And I get a lot of questions asked, but I know that I made the right decision. I was sitting in my parents' driveway with one leg out the door, one leg in my car, exhausted because, early voting is two weeks, and then the day of elections, you're running around places, you're driving all over. And my campaign manager who said, don't drive yourself anywhere. So I had a friend who drove me around pretty much the whole day. And at the end, I dropped her off at her car and I drove to my parents. And then I'm sitting there and I saw my numbers. It was about 15,000 or 13,000 different from my opponent. And I knew at that point that I won. There was no way she was gonna make it up in that day, that one day election. So I just was so thankful to God. I was on my knees. I thought about the moment I win, what was I going to do? And I knew that I would praise God because it's not my capabilities. It's not anything as me as a person. There had to be a miracle because what we did was miraculous. This county was very red, and everybody said, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. And I kept saying, I'm going to make it because I knew that for me, it was God-given destiny or God-given insight or motivation to run. Otherwise, I wouldn't have. And for me to be able to finally say, wow, a girl who's born in a little village in Kerala is now sitting on one of the benches in the county. And it's a very powerful position. You get to say what happens in people's lives and what happened in the kids' lives. And you're implementing whatever you say is what that happens in that courtroom. Everything's within your power and your control. It's a pretty amazing feeling. So I preside over a bench that handles criminal cases, criminal misdemeanor cases, which is less than a year of jail time, like driving while intoxicated or assault or family violence. There's also, felony cases and misdemeanor cases involving juveniles, anyone who's 10 and 17 years old, probate cases when somebody dies, as well as guardianships when somebody becomes incapacitated, land condemnations when the government or the state takes away your property, when somebody gets put into a mental hospital, those cases, civil cases up to $250,000. So we handle a wide variety of cases that any one person of this county will have to go through the county court at some point in their life. So it's my great pride to be an Indian American woman to sit on that bench. And I am the first Indian American woman elected in the country. This seat particularly, I was a civil attorney, so there are things that I had to learn very quickly, criminal law, probate law, things that I've never done, things that I've never handled. Any judge who gets on the bench in Fort Bend County, you may have practiced in one or two areas, but you never practiced all of the areas. It's just a given. So to learn very quickly and to become efficient, to be able to dispense, justly, was something that was a challenge. I would say just go for it. There's nothing limiting, or no one should limit you. If you really have a desire in your heart, just go ahead, go for it. Sometimes we're surprised as to, for example, I went to law school in Delaware, and Senator Biden at the time, the vice president, former vice president, currently the presidential nominee, his office was actually very close to my law school. And he taught at my law school as well. And I think of myself and I was like, why didn't I ever go to his office and ask for an internship? Why didn't I just say, let me volunteer at your office? That's a missed opportunity. So I would say, if you have an opportunity in life, just take it. Sometimes it's not about the present. You have to look into the future. And I don't know if I was very, I always looked ahead. And I think that's one of the things that I would tell anybody, consider what your long-term goal and your vision for your life is.